Well, it's a great moment for South Africa as it is about to host one of the very historic conferences, the Convention on International Trade, looking at endangered species. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that this conference is going to be looking at, and there's a whole range of issues that the delegates here will be looking at in terms of ensuring that all of these issues, they are in line with the provisions of this convention. But to talk more about this, somebody who's more knowledgeable than myself on the issues of wildlife and conservation and international politics that go with it, as Minister Edna Molewa, who is responsible for environment in South Africa. Minister, thank you very much. First, let's deal with the pleasure of South Africa hosting this convention coming from China, rather Thailand in 2013. 3 years later, it's here. Is it another feather on the cap of South Africa to host this event?
We are very delighted indeed that as South Africa, what we made a request to host this conference about 3 years ago when we were in Thailand has actually come to fruition. It involved hard work, lots to do, but here we are. But as much as it was hard work, we knew, even as we submitted the bid, that South Africa is a country that is very well known in hosting these kinds of events, and successfully. We are very proud that we have over 3,500 delegates who are here. They will be here for a full 2 weeks. You can imagine for us how good it is for tourism and for everything in the country, for exposure of our own country. So yes, we are very, very delighted. And I think everybody here, without exception, have been voicing their very happiness about how things have been organized here. They say the setup is quite good, the content is fine, and they are really ready to engage. So we have always said we are providing an atmosphere and a right environment for delegates to negotiate and to discuss. And things are unfolding very well. We are very, very happy.
I suppose it also adds to South Africa, stretching its own muscles in terms of being able to host global events. I think it does something to the prestige and the recognition of South Africa that we're a world player.
Absolutely, absolutely important, because anybody now of late, anybody in every country throughout the world, bodies like these are looking forward to South Africa to say, this is the host. I'm sure all of us will recall, even during the 2010 World Cup, when people were saying, no, it won't happen and so forth. Sepp Blatter kept on saying, option 1 is South Africa, option 2 is South Africa, option 3 is South Africa. Even about those events that later followed, big conferences like this one we are able to host without a small hitch. So yes, it gives us a muscle, it gives us confidence. And this is not only about muscle and confidence of hosting, by the way. It gets South Africa to actually say, and everybody say, that this is a respected country. It therefore says that people who are in South Africa and South Africans know what they do, and we can trust that whatever they touch is actually magic. And that's why we are so confident that indeed, with our own humility, by the way, that we can help the world and attract the world over to our shores. It's a way also of getting investments happening, because those who are here go back home to talk about these activities. I mean, someone was saying to me, this whole area here, you can see that there's a lot of investment that's happening. So even the current epoch, where people are saying inside South Africa we have difficulties, other people external are seeing something different. They're saying we can see this with our own eyes. Developments are happening. Johannesburg and Pretoria, it's all skyscrapers here, it's all cranes and all those things that they see here. So we are really very happy that, and this comes as an exposure to a country on matters like this, hosting these kinds of conferences.
Let's get to the business of the day. 3 years ago, this convention was in Thailand. A lot of issues were on the table in terms of this growing illegal trade of wildlife, especially the African elephants and so on. What has moved, what has shifted, Minister, from 2013 to 2016 in South Africa?
Well, I think we must say that this is actually a body that's based on scientific evidence and very much evidence-based. So from the time when we were in Thailand, after discussions were taken, resolutions were made, let me just pick on one issue about the elephants issue. And maybe even take it a bit further back, when South Africa was allowed to once-off sale of ivory. stockpiles. Between that time, there were certain decisions from Thailand that were saying, for instance, let's work intersessionally on understanding, for instance, the African elephant, what are the population rates, the Asian elephants, what are the population rates. So intersessionally, the scientists do work to look at how these elephants, either African or Asian, multiply, how they increase, how the mortality rate, and doing even the count specifically, but also the guesstimates, the estimations of where the populations are standing and whether there are moves and what necessitates those moves, what causes them, even up to the oceans, by the way. Ocean space, the shark, you name them. Shark spaces, whales, and so forth, all those creatures that are really almost getting towards extinction. So with the elephants one, the study was made and found that in the African elephant, we're not in a crisis in South Africa especially. We're not in any closer to any danger in the southern region in particular. However, on the continent, there are some countries that are really in a problematic situation. So this is what at this COP lies at the heart of the discussion, whether proposals that come from some of our African brothers on the continent that says, do not trade, restrict domestic trade or closure of markets, domestic closure of markets, whether that is actually a fair decision and resolution to be made here, because this body is actually about international trade, as it actually says. It's not about domestic trade. There are those who are interpreting the domestic trade to mean that even if you do things domestically, they impact on internationally. So we are saying we must not try and also move into sovereignty decisions that has got to be made by particular states. If we are, for instance, to leave this whole area, the conference, having agreed that there must be closure of domestic markets, what are you saying about the African elephant that's in the African Southern District community? Because there are overpopulation. So it's those kinds of things that we'll really talk about and debate. And the jury is out. We are engaging one another, and I think we'll get there. So there are proposals that we have made as South Africa. We are happy that there's full support from the EU and from all other countries on those species that South Africa. One of them is the Cape Mountain zebra. We are saying we ask CITES a few years ago to put this on Appendix 1, meaning that we shouldn't trade with it. And we are not saying banned. We are not saying other countries must be banned. We are saying ours. Because from a scientific point of view, we're seeing that they are dwindling down. The trade has actually caused it to be minimized, and it was almost getting towards extinction. So we now have populations that have grown. We're saying move it from Appendix 1 to Appendix 2 so that we can now deal with trade. Ginger, wildlife ginger, wild ginger. We are moving from Appendix 2 to uplisted 1, so that at least to Appendix 2, so that there's controlled and managed area of this. And so the species...
Whole range of issues.
Whole range of issues which are going to be...
Minister, I'm sure we're going to talk quite a lot as the Congress, or rather the conference continues, and I'm sure you're going to be available to us to be able to ask a lot of questions around the issues that you have raised.
I will not be rude. That's why you've got to be here to inform the whole world and South Africans.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's South Africa's Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna, really explaining some of the critical issues that this conference is going to be about. At the center, really, of this conference is the issue that Africa is worried about, the African elephants and the trade of the ivory. A lot of countries that are worried about the trade of ivory, and this conference is going to decide as to what should be done. Some countries, they want to trade the ivory, other countries, they want it to be banned. So we're going to look at all those issues during the course of this conference.